Last time we covered male reproductive system. Okay, so what are the big key things you need to make sure you understand from the male reproductive system? Number one, you need to be able to look at this figure, it will be on your finals, and label the important male reproductive structures. Okay? While we're looking at this picture, I'm going to use it to also make sure you guys remember the pathway that sperm, where it's produced, and the pathway that sperm follows through the body. Okay? It's important for you to be able to list that. All right. So step one, where is sperm produced? We got to go back and review a lot. In the testicles, in the testes, but we need to be a little bit more specific than that, and I'm going to write a little bit on here. Okay? It's produced in what part of the testicle? In the, no, the scrotum is a sac that the testicle sits in. Come on. The seminiferous, which I just spelled wrong, but you get the point. The seminiferous tubules. Inside of the testicle, that's where the sperm is made. Then the sperm travels to the rete testes, right? Remember when we did our dissections in lab, that was that little white strip in the middle of the testicle, okay? Well, all right, so all of this is inside of the testicle, and that's where we start. All right, from the testicle, where does the sperm travel? Not deductus deferens yet. First, we got to go through here. What's this? The epididymis. We go through the head of the epididymis, body of the epididymis, tail. Then, finally, we can go up the ductus deferens. All right. Now, what's this one little portion called right here where the seminal vesicle dumps in? See, ejaculatory duct. Then from the ejaculatory duct, we go through the urethra until the sperm can exit the body. Okay, so testicle, epididymis, ductus deferens, ejaculatory duct, urethra. Okay, you need to know that path. What does this seminal vesicle right here do? Oh, come on, guys. Seminal vesicle secretes a solution. All the way up to this point, we just have sperm. Then the seminal vesicle puts the liquid that's full of fructose and sugars in, and now this is called semen. Okay? Then this little structure right here, the prostate, adds a little bit more to it, right? Okay. All right. Then we keep going, and the semen can finally release. What does this little bulbourethral gland right here do? Doesn't control urine. It releases a solution to cleanse the urethra before the semen is released during ejaculation. Yeah, well, that's what it's cleaning out of there is the urine. But this is what you got. I know you guys asked me, is this what we call pre-cum? The answer was yes. That's what comes out here. The solution from the bulbourethral gland. Have we not covered this stuff? Yeah. Okay, just making sure. Obviously, y'all don't know much about the male reproductive system, and y'all need to learn some. All right. So let's start at the basics. What is this structure right here? What is that? That's a penis. Okay. And what I tell you guys, if y'all want to be nurses, you better get used to saying the word penis, right? It's not going to be something sexual at all. You will learn that you will see people naked all the time, and it's not a big deal. It's just part of their, it's like an arm hanging there, okay? Yeah, well, once you see them enough, not a big deal, okay? All right. What is the purpose of the penis? We're going to start basic. That is the scientific terminology. It becomes erect so that it can penetrate the female to deliver sperm into the female body. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a short answer question because I don't want to read them. All right, we have two portions of the penis, the corpus cavernosum, that's the part that actually fills with blood, and then the corpus spongiosum Keeps the urethra from collapsing during erection. Okay, y'all, I've got some studying to do. The other major figure you need to really focus on for your final, we talked about all this other stuff, but another image that you need to know is the structure of a sperm itself, right? We have the head, the midpiece, and the tail. What is in the head of the sperm? The DNA, that is the cell, actual cell part, but what else? It has the acrosome, which contains enzymes that help it break through the mucus of the cervix and also help it actually break through the egg when it reaches the egg. Okay? Remember, as we talk about this, we're talking about it in the sense of why your body makes these things, to make a baby. Okay? Even though that may not be your goal every time, that's your body's goal, is to try to produce a baby. What is in the mid-piece? Mitochondria, very good. Why does the sperm need so many mitochondria? It's got to move, so it's got to make lots of energy. Okay? And then the tail region is simply for propulsion. Okay? All right. It is a cell. It is a eukaryotic cell. The only difference is it's got half as many chromosomes because it's going to combine with another one. All right? Other than the sperm, the testicle makes a very important hormone for men called testosterone. Okay? The trigger to release testosterone comes all the way from the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus secretes GnRH. GnRH causes the pituitary to release LH and FSH. Then those two hormones go down into the reproductive organs, causing testosterone to be produced and simply telling the testicle you need to make the sperm. Okay? Are men born with a definite number of sperm they can make in their life? No. They have a much greater ability to continue to produce sperm. Some men can do that all the way into their 80s. LH and FSH. What does that stand for? What does FSH stand for? Follicle stimulating hormone. And what is LH? Luteinizing hormone. All right, very good. Okay. So that's what we covered last time. Now we're ready to talk about the female reproductive system. Female reproductive anatomy is a little easier. Female reproductive physiology, the hormones, are more complicated. Okay? Men, even though they do have cycles throughout the months of their hormones, it's always they either have a lot of testosterone or less testosterone. A lot of testosterone or less testosterone. Women have about 4 different major hormones that are always going up and down, and that's why sometimes women get a little moody at times. We can't help it. It is in our genetics to be that way. All right? So we're going to do first anatomy. We have our primary organ in females, and that is the ovary. The ovary produces an egg. The proper term for an egg is an ovum. Okay? The other thing the female ovary secretes is estrogen and progesterone. These are your 2 major sex hormones we're going to discuss. Those are analogous to the male testosterone. Okay? Male testosterone helps them get their secondary sex characteristics, make the sperm. These are going to help women make the egg, get her secondary sexual characteristics, as well as some other things that women have to do. Similar to the male anatomy, females also have a ducting system that they use to get the sperm to the egg, or if the egg is not fertilized, get the egg out of the body. Okay? Similar to the male, nothing really happens to the egg inside of the ducts. It's simply a passageway for the egg or the sperm to get where it's supposed to go. Okay? Once the egg is released from the ovary, it is mature. Nothing has to happen to it in these accessory ducts. Okay? All of the organs we're going to really focus on, the ovaries, the uterine tubes, which are commonly called the fallopian tubes. That's what you are used to hearing them called. The uterus and the vagina, those are all the internal genitalia. That's what we're going to focus on. Now, I am going to show you a picture of external female genitalia because it itself is also more complex than the external male genitalia. We didn't really look at that much with men because it was the penis. It was one structure. It wasn't something we really needed to label different parts of. Okay? All right, so here is our sagittal section of the pelvic cavity of a female. Just like the male, you need to be able to label this picture for your final. You need to know where all of the female anatomy is located. Now, if we think back to what the male picture looked like, this female picture is very different, right? Not only does it have different structures, but think about it, the male anatomy, male reproductive anatomy, was more spread out, right? It took up almost the entire portion of the pelvic cavity because the bladder and the urethra is shared. It's all kind of stuck together. The men use their urethra for reproduction and for the urinary system. The female keeps the urinary system completely separate from the reproductive system. Since women, we, under normal circumstances, have just this very small portion for reproduction, that allows a woman to get pregnant, and there is room for all of this to begin to swell as the baby grows. Now, when you get towards the end, the baby's pushing on this bladder, pushing on all these ligaments in the front, and eventually you do run out of room. But that's one reason we keep everything nice and compacted. Okay? Now, from the side like this, we can see one ovary. This is the fallopian tube. Okay? And we're going to talk more about the structure of the fallopian tube in a little bit. The egg is made in the ovary, pops out of the ovary, goes into the fallopian tube, dumps down into this large muscular structure that's called the uterus. Okay? From there, if it is not fertilized, it would continue during a menstrual cycle out the hardened end of the uterus called the cervix, through the vagina, and then come out of the body for removal. Okay? Sperm is going to travel just the opposite direction to try to get to an egg. Sperm will travel through the vagina, pass through the cervix, through the uterus, and all the way into what we call the ampulla, which is just the big arch of the fallopian tube. That is where the sperm has to go to fertilize an egg. It's got a pretty serious journey to make. Okay? And all along the way, the female body is not very nice to the sperm. The vagina has a low pH, not good for it. The cervix is full of mucus that's very hard for the sperm to get through. And then not only that, I'm going to come back to these in a minute. Once the sperm finally makes it up here, it's got to hope it goes the right direction because there's actually fallopian tubes and ovaries on each side, and only one works each month. So half the sperm's going to go the wrong way and get there, and there's not going to be an egg after it made all that effort to get there. Okay? And if you're meaning on birth control pills, no matter which way he goes, he's not going to find an egg. All right? And females are. Wait, let me correct what you said. Sperm have either an X or a Y. Eggs always have an X. So when they combine, you get the pair. Either XX or XY. But I mean, I don't know what you're asking, but right. It is true that the X and the Y sperm are slightly different in their physiological preferences. So that is one reason that some women will tend to have all girls or all boys. But it's not something that you can't necessarily try to eat differently to change it. You can't change it enough. That's just the way you are. But that is true. I'm listening. Go ahead. Penetration. Mm-mm. No, that's kind of your old wives' tale that, and that even goes back to a lot of people used to say your first baby is more likely to be a boy because the male sperm are they're the boy sperm. They're better swimmers. They're more athletic. They can get to the egg faster. That's not really true. It's just a mad dash. There's no preference. Yeah, no, I mean, like that's kind of an old wives' tale. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I had my own funny thought. I'm gonna keep it to myself. Alright. Yeah, okay, y'all gotta let me get back to this. Y'all done got me laughing. What? What? Being on top or bottom? No. No, 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 no. Absolutely not true. Doesn't matter how you do it. You're gonna have what you're supposed to have. Alright, there's other structures I gotta show you. Alright, all of this stuff, the uterus, the ovary, the fallopian tubes, they're suspended by ligaments. Okay? They're kind of just sitting in the middle, and there's all these things holding them in place. Okay? When you get pregnant and you're about 3 months along, all of a sudden you get these horrible cramps, and you start thinking, oh my God, something's wrong, something's wrong. What is happening is your baby has finally gotten big enough that your uterus has started swelling. And it's the first time that uterus swells, starts pulling on all that ligaments. And your doctors tell you, oh, that's round ligament pain. That's no big deal. That's all of these ligaments being pulled. And there's so many of them. That's why some women will say it hurts down here. Some women will say it hurts in the back. It just depends on which ligament your uterus is pulling on the most. But I can remember, that to me was worse than my first labor pains. I thought something was wrong. All right? Now, women have glands similar to the bulbourethral glands. They're called vestibular glands. I got a better picture to show you those in a minute. Here's the bladder. The urethra has nothing to do with the reproductive system. The female has an excitatory organ called the clitoris all the way towards the front of the body. I got another picture to show you that in a minute. Okay, and then the external genitalia, again, we're going to look at in a second. All right, so let's keep going so we get everything done. The female's ovaries, I said, are suspended by all the different ligaments. I would never make you label the different ones or anything like that. But I think it's important for you to understand. In all of these pictures, they make it look like the fallopian tube has these little fingers called an infundibulum. And they make it look like those fingers are holding the ovary. That is not how it works. The ovary is held by a ligament out in the middle of the pelvic cavity. And the fallopian tube is just right next to it. Okay, they don't actually touch each other. Those little fingers, the little infundibulum, the fimbriae on the infundibulum, they pulsate, kind of make a wave. And as they wave, when this ovary pops the egg out, that little bit of movement is forming a current to suck the egg into the fallopian tube. Now, it's not like a giant gap, but I think it's important for you to understand they're not literally holding on to each other. They are separate organs. The fimbriae on the infundibulum. The infundibulum, the ampulla, and the isthmus, these are just the region terms they use for anything in A&P. You've probably seen ampulla before. Ampulla just means arch of a tube. Isthmus means end of a tube. That's all that means. These are just the different parts of the fallopian tube. I don't think I asked you anything like that. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to use this picture to explain a few things. It's all written as we go through it. Well, let me do one other thing, and then I'm going to come back to this picture. Okay? So let's look at the ovary a little closer. We looked at them in lab. They didn't look really impressive when you had it next to that big pregnant uterus and everything else, right? But if we had a non-pregnant to show you, the ovary does look a little bit more impressive. It is much smaller. The ovary, I'm going to flip. You can read the words later. If we do a cut section of the ovary, we would see kind of a distinction between the cortex and the medulla. The medulla is mainly blood vessels. Around that cortex, around the edge, you would see some sort of little circular structure. In humans, you're going to see one of these stages. Don't let the pictures from your textbook confuse you. It is showing you a progression of how the follicle changes. If you cut open a human ovary, you wouldn't see all of these at once. Okay, you'll see one of them. The way it works, all women are born with a certain number of these teeny tiny little follicles that have immature eggs in them. Okay, can't see those with the naked eye. When the correct hormone signal is received once a month, all right, that ovary gets the signal and one of those becomes a primary follicle. Starts maturing, starts changing, getting ready to become a mature egg. The primary follicles keep growing, get a little bit bigger, become secondary follicles. Eventually that follicle will look like this. That's called a Graafian follicle. Some guy named it after himself. The reason it's called a Graafian follicle, the reason it's something different, is because it has this extra thickened region. That thickened region is ultimately preparing the egg to carry out a life. Okay? Do you guys know what an egg yolk is? What's the egg yolk? It's the yellow part, but what's it for? Okay, it kills me that y'all eat eggs and y'all have no idea. The yellow part is the nutrition. The yolk sac is what the baby lives off of. Okay? No, the baby's the little white creamy speck you see when you crack an egg. Okay, what? Okay, we're going to get there. I'm going to explain birth control after we get to the hormones. Y'all got to give me time to get there, okay? All right, so this thickened white part, that's ultimately going to become basically the yolk sac for a developing baby. In humans, we have yolk sacs too, but they just don't last long. We have to have something to give the developing zygote and blastocyst, the baby, nutrition before it attaches and develops the placenta. So that's what that's ultimately going to be. All right. From there, eventually we will have ovulation. Okay. See the little white ring that comes from this big white thing right here? That is an egg that is capable of being fertilized. That is ovulated and sucked into the fallopian tube. Okay. Well, what happens in the ovary after we spit the egg out is we get a piece of scar tissue called a corpus luteum. That corpus luteum is important. It actually secretes hormones that tells the ovary, I just made an egg, so we don't need to do it for the correct amount of time. Okay? If we didn't have this corpus luteum, we would continue popping eggs out just as fast as men can produce sperm. Why would that be bad if women just continually made eggs? We only have so many. If you started your menstrual cycle and started ovulating when you were 14, you'd be done at 18. Okay? So we make that corpus luteum and we slow it down and we only make one a month to make sure we can make them last a little longer. There's something wrong with their hormones and they're not making eggs anymore. When you go through menopause, what menopause is you've ran out of eggs. And that's why some women go through menopause I don't know what average is, but some women do it fairly early in their 40s. Some women are in their 60s before they go through menopause. I think average is probably in the 50s somewhere. Okay? All right. So let's look at all of our ducts now. I'm going to go back to this picture. Okay? So now we know what all the crazy looking stuff is inside this ovary, right? It's showing you the ovary goes through all those cycles. We have ovulation. The egg goes through the infundibulum, the ampulla, the isthmus, just goes through those parts of the fallopian tube and then goes into the uterus. If the egg is fertilized, when it goes into the uterus, it will implant on the wall of the uterus, and where it implanted will ultimately become the placenta, and it will grow inside of its embryonic sac. If the egg is not fertilized, then as it comes into the uterus, we've got to make sure we get it out. Okay? If the egg stayed in there unfertilized, it would ultimately be harmful to the woman. So women do something just to make sure we get it out called a menstrual cycle. Okay? Menstrual cycle is not just bleeding. Okay? It's not massive bleeding that occurs. What is actually happening is the endometrium, the inside layer of the uterus, sheds. Okay? It does bleed because if you grabbed your skin and peeled it off, it would bleed, right? Okay? So what you're actually seeing during a menstrual cycle is a mixture of blood and tissue from the inside of the uterus. That's why you see chunks or clumps. I always have somebody ask me. That is actual pieces of tissue from the inside of your body. Okay? The other layers of the uterus, the middle layer is called the myometrium. So what's it made of? Muscle. Why does the uterus need to be muscular? We can squeeze that baby out of there when it needs to, right? Okay. All right. Now, I think this picture shows you a much better idea of what the cervix looks like. Okay. So the uterus is much more hollow than the cervix. Cervix is much thicker, and you always have a plug of mucus inside of your cervix. If you were in Monday lab, you saw that mucus. We were able to see it when we dissected our uterus. The other guys, we couldn't see it as well. We had a nasty looking. Yeah. So when you're pregnant, that mucus gets really, really thick and hard because it wants to make sure nothing gets into that uterus where that baby's trying to grow. Well, why do we need that mucus plug all the rest of the time if there's no baby in there? No, that's not doing it, baby. Well, sperm can make its way through. Sperm gets through the mucus to keep other stuff from getting in it's not supposed to. And what do I mean by that? Do any of you take a bath at night, any of you ladies? Otherwise, you fill up with water. You got to have something to keep water from going all the way into your fallopian tubes and other things too. Okay, so that's what that's there for. All right. Right, keeps bacteria out. Okay? Yeah. It depends on where it starts. People that have endometriosis, endometrium is that inside layer. People that actually get tumors on the inside of their uterus, if they start lower as they grow, it can force that cervix open. Because even though the cervix is hard and is closed together, it's designed to open. Because when a baby comes out, it has to open 8 centimeters. Actually, the cervix opens more than 8 centimeters. The top of the vaginal cavity only opens about 8 centimeters when a baby is born. Like through ultrasound you saw a collapsed uterus? What do you mean? Oh, no, I've never seen that. I've seen a collapsed bladder fall out of the vaginal canal, but I've never seen a uterus. You know, girls, I don't know if you know this in the class, but I'm going to teach you something. You know, we have to go to our monthly, thank God, yearly visit to the gynecologist, right? Okay. Well, you probably all know most of what they're doing down there is they're taking pieces of that endometrium and they go and look at it on a microscope and make sure you're not showing any signs of cancer cells. Okay, that's what they're doing with the little clippy thing. Okay, that's why it hurts. They're actually cutting a piece of your tissue out. Then I'm not trying to be graphic, I'm just trying to teach you what they're doing to you. They put their fingers inside of you. They're feeling of your cervix. Okay? So they're putting their hand all the way in and going up there and feeling your cervix. Then, while they're doing that, they push on your abdomen. Okay? You can push on your abdomen and feel your uterus. You can do that at home. Go lay on the bed, relax your muscles, and push on the lower portion of your abdomen. You'll be able to feel your uterus. That's what they're doing to you. They're making sure your uterus isn't swollen and it's located in the right position. Okay? Did you all know that's what they were doing to you? Okay, well, I probably didn't know that the first time I went, and I can remember sitting there thinking, like, oh my God, what's going on? So, well, there's different types of hysterectomies. Some hysterectomies, like they can go in and just move any one little part they want. A complete or total hysterectomy is when they go in and remove everything cervix up, because you don't have to have it. And then your body's just going to fill with other stuff. Right. If they take your ovaries out, you're not going to make the estrogen. Well, they leave the cervix because they're going to leave everything up, because this just kind of forms the hardened top of the vagina, and that's why they're going to leave that. I don't know who was next. Y'all just talk. It don't matter. Go ahead, Pam. You're closer to me. Yeah, the sperm has to go through a mucus plug if it's going to make its way in. Yeah, as long as you have your ovaries, you can still produce hormones. Well, if they do a complete hysterectomy, you go through menopause then. All menopause is when you no longer produce eggs, and you no longer produce eggs because you're not making the normal hormones. So if you have a complete hysterectomy, they're going to pop you into menopause immediately, meaning, yeah, yeah, everything up. No, you never go out of menopause. Once you hit menopause, you never make eggs or estrogen again. Not really. It depends on what's wrong with you as to why they're doing the hysterectomy, as to what they're going to take out. Usually the younger you are, the more they're going to try to salvage different parts. If you're in your 50s and they're doing a hysterectomy, they're pretty much just going to be more likely to take everything. If you've had ovarian cancer or something and you're 30 and they're going to take out an ovary, they're going to try to take out just one and leave everything else so you could still even possibly have a baby if you wanted to. So it just depends on your age and what's wrong with you as to what they're going to take out. My mother had a total hysterectomy when she was in her early 50s because she was having some issues, and it was bad. She still has to take hormones because she's still crazy if she don't take her hormones. Mhm. No, thank you. I would like to not hit menopause right now. Right. Yeah, if you ever have an issue, you want to take out the minimum possible. You will have some doctors tell you generally if you have one piece taken out, you're going to eventually have to have it all taken out. So what they'll try to do is say, well, let's just take it all out now. That's never a good idea. That's never a good idea. Hmm. Well, menopause affects different women differently. If y'all let me finish, we'll get to the hormones, and this will make more sense to y'all. All right, y'all let me finish. We're almost to the hormones, and we're almost running out of time too. All right. So what's the vagina for? Well, it's a birth canal. It's a place for the sperm to be inserted into the female. Nothing really happens inside of the vagina. Things are just moving one way or another. It's all it's for. Okay? Here's our picture of the external genitalia. Now, so why am I showing you this? Well, I want to show you there are the external and internal labia. Okay? This is the opening, or not the opening, the visible portion of the clitoris. This is the opening of the urethra. This is the opening of the vagina. This is the ducts from those vestibular glands. Remember I told you females have something analogous to the bulbourethral gland. Those glands secrete a solution to clean the area, clean any bacteria from the area, and also to lubricate. Not necessarily cleaning urine, but it's cleaning the area like the bulbourethral glands do for men. The reason I show you this picture is because the next picture I have shows you what it looks like if you cut all that tissue off, and then I can show you this is what the clitoris actually looks like. What does that look like? A little baby penis, right? What was the job of the penis of men, for men? Delivering the sperm and what else? Stimulation, right? Excitatory organ. The female clitoris has a corpora cavernosum. It actually swells and fills with blood, just like the male penis does. Okay, so y'all can say, y'all learned something today, and y'all can go show this picture to somebody and tell them, did you know that girls do have a penis, and show it to them. Okay? All right, so production of the egg. We talked about this with the production of the sperm, so we don't have to do it quite as much with the egg. Remember, we have diploid, 2N, stem cells, double chromosomes. Can the egg have double chromosomes like every other cell in your body? No. We need to be haploid, so when the egg combines with sperm, then we have the correct number of chromosomes. So let me show you what it looks like. It's a little different. With the sperm, we had stem cells, and one eventually became 4 sperm. With the egg, okay, the egg has much more responsibility of producing an environment for a baby to be able to grow. Okay, so the egg, when it goes through its first stage of meiosis, makes what we call a polar body. It's just a little bit of trash that it can't use, and it puts everything into one egg. During the second stage of meiosis, does the same thing again. So you actually end up with just one really healthy ovum, one really healthy egg, and 3 little polar bodies that are just waste products. So in the female, 1 egg becomes 1 egg. In males, one sperm stem cell becomes 4 sperm. So another reason they can make so many more than women can. Okay, just to no, N is haploid. One N is haploid, 2N is diploid. Number of chromosomes. Okay. Now, just to show you how this relates to what we saw in the ovary, when we were seeing things like the Graafian follicle, we were still at the point we had not hit meiosis yet. When we get to the point of corpus luteum, that's when we finally finish the second stage of meiosis, and we finally release that mature ovum. All right, so let's look at some hormones so I can explain a few things to you. We have 2 cycles to talk about in women. We have the ovarian cycle. That's what's going on in the ovary. And then we have the menstrual cycle. That's what's going on in the uterus. They happen at the same time, but we're going to look at them separately and then put them together. Okay? With the ovarian cycle, we have 3 phases: follicular phase, ovulation, luteal phase. During the follicular phase, that is when the female is going from a primary follicle to a secondary follicle. Remember that picture from the ovary? That's when that egg is slowly starting to mature. Okay, that's when it's getting bigger. Okay, all of that happens during the follicular phase. Then we have ovulation, so we release the mature egg. Okay, and then during luteal phase, that's when you have this corpus luteum. Remember, that was that big piece of scar tissue to prevent you from going back and immediately starting a follicular phase again. Okay, so this is what I showed you in the ovary. Now I'm just giving it names, and we're going to look at what hormones are going on. All right. Now, these numbers that are written up here, every woman doesn't follow that. Every woman is not in the follicular phase from day 1 to 14, and then in the luteal phase from day 14 to 28. Some women ovulate at day 6. Some women ovulate at day 17. Okay, so some women have longer phases than others, but we all have to still go through the same phases within about a 28 to 30 day period. Okay, all right, so it's written here in words, but I want to kind of show you a little picture if I can. Okay, let me do something. Let me give me a big piece of paper. Sorry, I gotta have something to draw on. All right, so we have the follicular phase, we have ovulation, and we have the luteal phase, right? Okay, so let's look at what our different hormones are doing during these phases. Now, we're going to have some of the same hormones. We still have GnRH from our hypothalamus, makes us release LH and FSH from our pituitary. Okay? Those hormones are typically a little lower during the follicular phase, and they start to rise a little, and then we have a huge peak of LH and FSH at the point of ovulation. Then they go back down, and then the cycle would start over again. So if I ask you, what causes ovulate? What hormone is the trigger for ovulation? What's the answer? LH and FSH. Those are the 2 hormones that surge and tell the female body, make an egg. Okay? If a woman has a problem with her anterior pituitary and she does not make her LH and FSH, she may not be able to produce an egg. So a problem in your brain could keep a woman from producing an egg. Okay? Now, those aren't the only 2 hormones we've got, though, right? What are those other 2 big hormones women have? Estrogen and progesterone. All right? So estrogen is really high during the follicular phase. Then it kicks down, and then it will eventually start to come back up. Sorry, my graph is not beautiful. Okay? And that red one is estrogen. So what would you say estrogen does for us? Any ideas? When's estrogen high? It keeps the eggs to stay, it makes the egg stay in the ovary and tells the egg to mature. Okay? What does estrogen have to do for ovulation to occur? It has to go down. Okay? If your estrogen level didn't go down at the same time your LH and FSH level was going up, you wouldn't be able to produce an egg. The number one most common type of birth control is an estrogen-based birth control. So what would happen to my ability to produce an egg if my estrogen stayed right here all the time? Would I be able to make an egg? Hang on. Okay? Y'all answer my question for you. I'll start asking another question. You have a very, very low chance of making an egg. Because what does estrogen have to do if I'm going to make an egg? Go down. When you take an estrogen-based birth control, your estrogen stays high, and then you stop taking it, you have a period. Then you pop it way back up again, high, then you stop taking it, you have a period. So are you still within your ovary doing something when you're taking an estrogen-based birth control pill? Yeah, your ovaries are still working. They're still going primary follicle, secondary follicle, but it stops it from ever getting beyond the point of secondary follicle. But there are a chance. I don't know the statistics, but every so many times you go through a monthly cycle, you do make an egg while you're on estrogen-based birth control. So most birth control pills have a backup. Okay? Now what you're asking me about the shot, most of your newer shots, if you don't have a cycle, are progesterone-based, not estrogen-based. Estrogen-based pills are the ones where you take the 3 weeks worth of pills, then you have the week worth of sugar pills, and you have a menstrual cycle. Those are the estrogen-based birth control pills. Okay? The other birth control pills are progesterone-based, and let me show you what progesterone does. I don't have another color pen. We'll do red, but I'll make it dashed or something. So progesterone stays pretty baseline until we get to the luteal phase. And that's when progesterone really kicks up into gear. Progesterone is the hormone that tells the woman's ovary, you just made an egg, don't make any more. Okay? This is the one that's being produced by the corpus luteum. And when that progesterone is high, that tells the ovary, don't make any more, we're done. Okay? No. If you just take, all right, so y'all keep getting ahead of me. Okay? If you take only a progesterone-based birth control pill, can you still make an egg? Can you still ovulate? Yes, you do still have a potential of ovulating. Much, much more. But the reason you can take a progesterone-based birth control pill and not be pregnant is because if you have a really, really high level of progesterone, it also affects your menstrual cycle and your uterus. So women that are on progesterone-based birth control, they may make an egg. It may even get fertilized, but it cannot implant in the uterus. So you just eventually wash it out of your body. It does not get all the proper signals to mature and become a baby. Okay? So y'all know I was a big advocate of we got to stop the Initiative 26. Do you understand why that would have stopped some of your birth control? It would have stopped every progesterone-based birth control pill we had. Initiative means then a judge can use it to do whatever he wants with it. Okay. Okay, well, let me say this. No. And any time you have something like that, always listen to your science teacher over your other teachers when it comes to stuff like that, okay? I'm not telling you what your religious beliefs should be. I'm telling you the science. That's what I want you guys to know what your birth control pills are doing. Some of you have probably been taking birth control pills for quite a long time, and I mean, some of you have kids, but you're taking birth control. You need to know what's going on with these. All right, there's a few other things I want to say to you before I run out of time today. All right, and we're going to have to finish this on next Tuesday, but that's okay. We still got another class period. Morning after pill is basically the same thing as taking 4 or 5, I don't know the correct concentration, birth control pills at the same time. All it does, the morning after pill, is give you a big kick shot of progesterone. Okay? So, keeps a fertilized egg from attaching. But it is simply birth control, just high dosages of it. So, if we ever have something a law that states life begins when the sperm meets the egg, it would knock out that morning after pill. I didn't vote, but we're talking about it anyway. Right. It would have stopped the morning after pill. It would have 100% stopped it. What was your question before I forget? Estrogen keeps you high levels of estrogen. If the estrogen never goes down, you can't ovulate. Okay? Progesterone allows you to ovulate, but the fertilized egg can't attach in the uterus. Okay. So let's just go through the whole thing again. In order to ovulate, what has to happen? LH, estrogen has to go down, and LH and FSH has to go up. Okay? In order to complete the cycle and finish again, we need the LH and FSH to drop off, and we need a shot of progesterone to come up. And then the cycle will start up. Progesterone will go away, estrogen will come up, and we'll start over again. This is always the order, and then you would just put this up again. Which one is the mean hormone? Which hormone makes women cranky? What you think? Estrogen, LH, FSH, or progesterone? Progesterone is the mean hormone, okay? Even though we haven't quite got there yet, and we'll cover it next time. A menstrual cycle, here's your menstrual cycle. Right here, in the very beginning of this over here is the menstrual cycle. When that progesterone starts coming up, that's when women get mean, right? Some women are more responsive to the progesterone levels. Some women don't really have PMS. Some women have serious PMS, all right? Which hormone do you think is more likely to increase a woman's sex drive? Which one pops up when a woman makes an egg? LH and FSH. Because think about it, scientifically, the way your body is designed, when should a woman want to have sex? When their body's ovulating, when they can make a baby. So women are actually most interested when there's high surges of FSH and LH. And I say that to the guys in the room. So if a girl's ever really, really that interested, you may want to be careful, because that means her body is scientifically in the process of producing an egg at that moment. Did you just say you got to keep up with when day 14 is? Most married men know. Are any of you in this room married? Any of the ladies, men married? You know, don't you? You keep up with it. Yeah, my husband keeps up with things like that. He knows exactly when I should be mean and when he has to be okay with it. It's a smart thing to do.